The sound of rain always reminded Emily of secrets. It was soft that morning in Madison, Wisconsin, steady drumming on the kitchen window, the kind of gray quiet that made the whole house feel smaller. She sat at the breakfast table, watching her younger brothers argue over cereal, while her mom hummed some country song under her breath. Her her dad, as she had always been told, was reading the newspaper with his usual flat expression. Only he wasn't really her dad. She knew that now, and everything felt heavier because of it. For 16 years, Emily had tried to understand why he didn't look at her the way he looked at her sister Hannah or her brothers Max and Oliver. When Hannah came home with a C on a test, he'd put a hand on her shoulder and tell her she was smart, just needed to focus. When Emily brought home an A, he'd barely glance at the paper. It used to confuse her. It used to hurt. She remembered one Christmas when she was 10. The living room sparkled with string lights and tinsel, and there were presents piled under the tree. Bright paper, gold ribbons, the smell of pine and cocoa. Everyone laughed when Dad handed out gifts. Hannah got the makeup kit she'd been begging for. Max got a remote control car. Oliver got the little train set he'd been obsessed with. Emily's turn came last. Dad handed her a single small box, not wrapped, just a plain cardboard box with tape. Inside was a pair of socks. She looked up, smiling at first because she thought maybe it was a joke, maybe the real gift was coming. But his face said otherwise. "Figured you could use something practical," he said, sipping his coffee. The room went silent for a moment before her mom forced a laugh and told everyone to say thank you. Emily had said it too, quietly, then folded her hands and stared at the socks for the rest of the night. Mom always told her they were just too similar, both stubborn, both quiet, both hard to read. But that was a lie, Emily realized now. It wasn't that they were alike, it was that she wasn't his. The truth had come out 2 months ago. It wasn't supposed to. It was at her cousin's graduation party in Milwaukee, a humid June afternoon with too many people and not enough space. Emily had gone out to the back porch to escape the noise when her Aunt Carol followed her. Carol had always been the talker in the family, with a voice that carried and a face that showed every thought before she spoke it. She sat beside Emily and sighed. "Ah, you're growing up so fast," she said. "Looks just like your mama did at 16, just with your daddy's eyes." Emily smiled awkwardly, unsure what to say. "Thanks, I guess." But Aunt Carol didn't stop there. "Not that daddy," she whispered after a pause. "The one before him." It was like the air got sucked out of the porch. Emily blinked, her heart slamming against her ribs. "What?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Carol froze, realizing her mistake, but the damage was done. In a rush of guilt and pity, she told Emily everything about how her mom had been seeing 2 men at once, Drake, the man she'd married, and another man, Mark, her biological father. How Drake had demanded a choice, and when her mom chose him, he agreed to raise her as his own if he could have his own child too. That was why Hannah had been born barely a year later. Carol said she shouldn't know any of this, that it wasn't her place to tell. But Emily didn't hear much after that. Her ears buzzed, her stomach turned, all the memories she'd spent her life trying to make sense of, every cold glance, every ignored moment, suddenly made perfect sense. She didn't remember leaving the party. She just remembered running. And later, standing in front of Drake, her hands shaking, the words spinning out before she could stop them. He didn't deny it. He just stared at her for a moment and said, "Guess there's no point pretending now. You can stop calling me Dad. Drake is fine." No yelling, no apology, just that calm, dead tone. Mom tried to smooth things over, insisting it was a misunderstanding, but when Emily showed her the old DNA test papers Carol had dug up to prove it, her face drained of color. She didn't apologize either. She just went pale and whispered, "Who told you?" And that's all she's wanted to know ever since. Every day, sometimes twice a day, asking, pleading, demanding, "Who told you, Emily?" But Emily wouldn't say. She couldn't betray Aunt Carol, not after what she did. That morning, as the rain tapped against the glass, Mom tried again. "Emily," she said quietly, setting down her mug, "I'm asking you one last time. Who told you about that?" Emily didn't look up. "Does it matter?" "It does to me." "It shouldn't," she said, pushing her cereal around with her spoon. "You should be asking why everyone else knew except me." Her mom sighed, frustrated. "I had my reasons. You were a child. You wouldn't have understood." "I understand now, and it explains everything." Drake looked up from his paper. "Good. Then you can stop moping about it. You're not mine, Emily. I tolerated you for your mother's sake, but that's all. So let's just be clear. You've got about 2 years before you're 18. After that, I expect you to move out. I want time with my family." "Your family?" She froze. "Yes," he said, folding the paper neatly. "My wife and my kids." She wanted to scream, but no sound came out. Her mom said nothing, just sat there, staring into her coffee like she was afraid to look up. That was the last breakfast they ever had together. In the weeks that followed, the house became a battlefield made of silence. Drake barely spoke to her except to bark orders or make comments about pulling her weight. Her mom tried to act normal, school drop-offs, grocery runs, little smiles that didn't reach her eyes, but every night she came to Emily's door, knocking softly, asking the same thing. "Please, honey, who told you?" Sometimes Emily would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering what kind of mother cared more about who told the truth than the truth itself. She didn't hate her mom, she just didn't know who she was anymore. School wasn't much better. Everyone thought she had it all together, the quiet, artsy girl with the sketchbook always tucked under her arm. Nobody saw how many nights she cried herself to sleep, or how she spent her lunch breaks sitting behind the gym, sketching faces she'd never met. But there was one person who noticed. Jake Matthews, the boy from her English class. He had that easy kind of charm with messy brown hair and the kind of grin that could light up a rainy day. He wasn't pushy like other guys. He just sat with her sometimes, asked how she was doing, and didn't press when she said fine. One afternoon, he found her sitting under the bleachers sketching. "You always look like you're drawing ghosts," he said. She laughed softly. "Maybe I am." He tilted his head. "You ever draw yourself?" "Not really." "Why not?" "Because I don't know who I am." He didn't laugh, he just nodded, like he understood. That small moment of kindness meant more than he'd ever know. By late August, Emily had stopped trying to make peace at home. She kept her head down, did her chores, stayed out of Drake's way. Hannah noticed the tension, but didn't know the truth. Emily didn't want to ruin her sister's image of their family. But one night, she overheard something she wasn't supposed to. Drake was in the living room, on the phone. His voice was low, annoyed. "I told you she's not my problem. Once she turns 18, she's out. I already told Marissa we're not wasting college money on her." Emily's heart dropped. College money. She'd been saving since she was 13, babysitting, working summers at the ice cream shop. Every dollar going into the account her mom said was for your college fund. Turns out, that was just her own money. The real college fund, the one Drake managed, was for Hannah, Max, and Oliver. She pressed her hand over her mouth, trying not to cry. When she went to her room that night, she sat at her desk, staring at her sketchbook. On the first page, she wrote 3 words in black ink: "I will leave." She didn't know where she'd go yet, but she knew she couldn't stay. That's when the message came from a man named Mark Anderson, her biological father. The message came on a Wednesday evening. Emily was sitting at her desk, finishing a sketch of the rain-soaked street outside, when her phone buzzed. The screen lit up with a Facebook message request from a name she didn't recognize: Mark Anderson. At first, she thought it was spam, but curiosity got the better of her. She opened it. "Hi, Emily. I know this is sudden, but I believe I'm your biological father. I've wanted to reach out for years, but your mom didn't want me to. I understand if you don't want to talk, but I'd like the chance to explain if you let me." Her chest tightened. The words looked blurry, like her eyes couldn't decide whether to focus or not. She read it 3 times, then set her phone down and just sat there in the dim light, staring at the screen. Her hands shook. Her throat felt dry. Someone knocked on her door, her mom. "Emmy, dinner's ready." "Okay," she said, voice small. She didn't move for a full minute after her mom walked away. Then, slowly, she picked up the phone again and typed back just 2 words: "We can talk." They decided to meet 2 days later at a small coffee shop downtown called River Bend Cafe, the kind of place that smelled like cinnamon and old books. Emily wore her hoodie pulled tight, hoping no one she knew would see her. When she walked in, she saw him right away. Mark Anderson looked nothing like Drake. His hair was light brown, streaked with gray, and his eyes, green like hers, had a gentleness that startled her. He stood when he saw her, smiling nervously. "Emily?" She nodded. He motioned to the seat across from him. "Thanks for coming." She sat down, her hands tucked under the table. "I almost didn't." "I wouldn't blame you," he said softly. "I know this is complicated." For a while, neither of them spoke. The sound of clinking cups and distant laughter filled the silence. Finally, Emily asked the question that had been burning in her mind. "Did you know about me all these years?" Mark nodded. "I did. Your mom told me when she found out she was pregnant, but by then she'd chosen Drake. He told her that if she wanted to be with him, I had to disappear. So I did. I thought it was what she wanted." She frowned. "And you never tried to contact me?" "I did. I sent letters every year on your birthday. Cards, gifts. Your mom returned every one." Her chest ached. "Why didn't you fight for me?" Mark looked down, his voice breaking a little. "Because she made it clear that if I pushed, it would hurt you. I didn't want you caught in a war between adults. I thought maybe you'd have a good life. I thought that was better than confusing you." She blinked back tears. "He'd treated me like I didn't belong." Mark swallowed hard. "I'm so sorry, Emily. If I'd known how bad it was, I would have done something, anything." She wanted to be angry at him, to tell him it was too late. But when she looked into his eyes, she didn't see excuses. She saw regret, real, heavy regret that came from love. They talked for hours about art, about school, about the things she liked. He told her he ran a small design firm in Minneapolis, that he'd never married, that he'd always kept a space in his life for the daughter he couldn't have. For the first time in her life, she felt like she was being listened to. When she got home that night, her mom was waiting by the window, pale and anxious. "Where have you been?" "Out," Emily said. "With who?" She hesitated, then decided not to lie. Mark. Her mom's face fell. "Oh God, Emily. You lied to me my whole life," Emily said. "You let him think I was better off without him. Why?" "Because I didn't want to lose you," her mom cried. "Drake said if I ever brought him into your life, he'd leave. He said we'd lose everything. I was trying to protect you." "Protect me from what?" Emily's voice cracked. "From having a dad who actually wanted me?" Her mom covered her face, sobbing, but Emily couldn't comfort her. Not this time. She went to her room, locked the door, and sank to the floor. For the first time, she realized she didn't just feel hurt, she felt angry. Angry that everyone else got to decide what kind of life she had. Angry that truth came too late. That night, she opened her sketchbook and started drawing again, but this time she didn't draw rain or faceless people. She drew herself, standing on a road, her back to a house in the distance, walking toward the horizon. Over the next few weeks, she met Mark a few more times. They talked more easily now. He showed her pictures of her grandparents, her cousins, his home in Minneapolis. He told her, "You have a place here, you know, if you ever need it." She didn't say anything, but she kept thinking about it. Drake had made it clear she wasn't wanted. Her mom was slipping further into guilt and panic, and the house no longer felt like home. But she had school, and Hannah, and her little brothers. She couldn't just leave them. Not yet. One Saturday morning, Emily was making breakfast when Hannah wandered into the kitchen. "Hey, Em," she said, rubbing her eyes. "Mom's crying in her room again. Did something happen?" She froze. "What do you mean?" "She was on the phone with Drake. He's staying at a hotel again." "Again?" Hannah nodded. "They've been fighting a lot lately. About money, I think." Emily bit her lip. She knew it wasn't just money. It was about her. Later that day, she overheard them fighting in the driveway. "You couldn't keep your mouth shut, could you?" Drake's voice was sharp, venomous. "Now she's seeing him? You've ruined everything." Her mom shouted back, "What was I supposed to do, Drake? Keep lying forever? Yes, that was the deal." Emily stood by her window, watching them argue under the fading sun. For the first time, she wasn't scared of Drake. She just felt sorry for him, for a man so obsessed with control that he forgot what love's supposed to mean. By October, things got worse. Drake started drinking more. He'd come home late, slam doors, yell about little things. The dishes, the bills, the noise. He never touched Emily, but the tension in the air made every room feel smaller. One night, he found out she'd been meeting Mark again. He cornered her in the kitchen, his voice low and dangerous. "You think you can just replace me?" he hissed. Emily stood her ground. "You were never there to replace." His hand twitched, but he didn't hit her. He just stared at her for a long, tense moment before turning away and muttering, "You're just like her." That was when Emily decided she was done waiting. She started saving again, quietly this time. Her boss at the ice cream shop gave her extra hours. Jake helped her sell some of her sketches online. She started planning, not a runaway, a move forward. Mark said there was room for her in Minneapolis, that she could enroll in a local art program if she wanted to. He even said he'd help her finish high school there. It sounded like freedom, but freedom had a cost, leaving behind her siblings, her mom, and the only life she'd known. But every time Drake slammed a door, every time her mom avoided her eyes, the choice became clearer. She wasn't running away. She was taking back her life. In the quiet of her room one night, Emily wrote another note in her sketchbook. "You can't build a family on a lie." Then she closed the book, looked around her small, cluttered room, the posters, the worn-out sneakers, the window that faced the rain, and whispered to herself, "Next month. I'm leaving next month." The night before she left, the rain returned. It tapped softly against her window, the same rhythm she'd fallen asleep to since she was a little girl. But this time, the sound didn't comfort her. It only reminded her how much had changed and how much she was about to leave behind. Her suitcase sat open on the bed. She didn't have much to pack. A few sketchbooks, some clothes, her favorite hoodie, and the small stuffed bear she'd had since kindergarten. Its fur was faded, its left eye missing. She hesitated before putting it in her bag, then tucked it safely between her clothes. Downstairs, she could hear her mom washing dishes. Drake wasn't home. He'd gone to stay at a hotel again after another screaming match. Emily's phone buzzed. A message from Mark. "I'll be waiting outside your school tomorrow at noon. Just text me when you're ready." She stared at the screen for a long moment, then typed back, "I'll be there." The next morning felt strangely calm. She got up early, dressed quietly, and made breakfast like she always did. Hannah came down the stairs, yawning. "Hey," Hannah said, "you're up early." "Couldn't sleep," Emily said, forcing a smile. "You okay? You've been weird lately." Emily paused, then said softly, "I'm okay, Han. I just need a change." Hannah frowned. "What kind of change?" Emily looked at her little sister, the freckles across her nose, the sleepy confusion in her eyes, and felt her throat tighten. "The kind that makes things better," she said. "For me, at least." When she got to school, everything felt like a dream. The hallways buzzed with chatter, lockers slammed, sneakers squeaked against the floor, all the little noises that made up her ordinary life. But she knew it wasn't ordinary anymore. In her locker, she left a folded note taped to the inside door. It said, "Hannah, I love you. Be strong. Tell Mom I'll be okay. I just need to breathe." Then she shut it and walked away. At noon, she stepped outside into the pale autumn light. Mark's car was parked by the curb, a small blue sedan that looked like it had seen 1,000 miles. When she climbed in, he gave her a reassuring smile. "You ready?" he asked. Emily took a deep breath. "Yeah, I think so." As they drove out of town, the city shrank behind them. The rows of houses, the blinking traffic lights, the school that had felt like both a cage and a refuge. For the first time in 16 years, she wasn't looking back. They drove north for 6 hours, stopping only once for gas and burgers. Mark talked most of the way about his work, the city, the art program he'd found for her. Emily listened quietly, her thoughts drifting between excitement and guilt. When they finally pulled into Minneapolis, the sun was setting behind the skyline. The city glowed gold and blue, reflected in the glass buildings and the Mississippi River that wound through it. "This is home," Mark said softly. He took her to a small apartment above a bookstore. It was cozy, 1 bedroom, a tiny kitchen, a view of the city lights. "It's not much, but it's yours if you want it." Emily set her bag down and looked out the window. The world felt wide open for the first time. Back home, chaos hit. By evening, her mom had found the note. She called her phone 12 times. Then Drake called, shouting, furious, demanding she come back. She didn't answer. Then came Hannah's text. "Mom's freaking out. Drake's saying you'll regret this. Please tell me you're safe." Emily replied quickly, "I'm safe. I promise. I love you. Don't let him blame you for anything." She put the phone on silent and set it face down. Then she cried, not because she regretted leaving, but because every decision that set her free came with a price. The next few weeks felt like a new kind of life. Emily enrolled her in a local high school. She set up a small art desk by the window. They cooked dinner together most nights, simple stuff like pasta or grilled cheese, and sometimes stayed up late talking about everything she'd never had a chance to say before. He wasn't perfect. He was quiet, sometimes too careful with his words, like he was afraid of saying the wrong thing, but he was patient and kind. It felt strange having someone ask about her day and actually listen. One night as they were cleaning up, she asked, "Why didn't you give up on finding me?" Mark looked at her, surprised. "Because I never stopped being your dad." Her eyes stung. She didn't say anything. She just smiled and nodded. But the peace didn't last. 2 months after she left, a letter arrived. Not from her mom, from Drake. It wasn't handwritten, just typed on plain white paper. "You can play house with him all you want, but remember, you're not my daughter, and you never were. You're his problem now. Don't come back." Mark found her sitting on the floor with the letter in her hand. Her face was blank, but her eyes were glassy. He knelt beside her. "You don't have to read anything from him again." She nodded slowly. "I know. I needed to see what kind of man he really is." Mark took the letter, tore it in half, and threw it away. And just like that, she felt lighter. By winter, Emily's world started to bloom again. She joined an art club at school. She got a part-time job at the bookstore downstairs. And slowly, she stopped feeling like a ghost from someone else's life. One afternoon, she was sketching at a cafe when her mom called again. She hadn't heard from her in weeks. This time, she answered. "Emily," her mom said, voice trembling, "I miss you." Emily hesitated. "I miss you too, Mom. Can I see you, please? Just once." After a long silence, Emily said quietly, "Okay, but just you." They met at a park halfway between the two cities. When her mom arrived, she looked smaller somehow, her eyes tired, her hands twisting the strap of her purse. "I don't expect you to forgive me, but I want you to know I never stopped loving you. I just didn't know how to love you the right way." Emily nodded slowly. "I know. I ruined a lot of things." Her mom whispered, "Drake's gone. He moved out last month. And your siblings? They know now. Everything." Emily's chest tightened. "How are they?" "They're angry, confused, but they'll come around." They sat in silence for a while, watching a couple of kids play with a kite in the distance. Finally, her mom said, "You turned out stronger than I ever was." Emily blinked away tears. "I had to." Her mom reached out, hesitated, then gently squeezed her hand. For the first time, there were no lies between them. Just truth, heavy and painful, but honest. As they said goodbye, Emily looked back at her mother and realized something she hadn't before. She wasn't that scared little girl anymore, the one waiting for love that never came. She'd stopped waiting. She'd started living. That night, when she got home, Mark was waiting with 2 mugs of hot cocoa. He handed her one and smiled. "How was it?" "Hard, but good. I think we're finally okay." He nodded. "Good." They sat quietly for a while, the snow falling outside the window. Then Emily opened her sketchbook and started a new page. This time she drew 2 people, a father and daughter, sitting side by side, watching the snow fall. And underneath she wrote 3 words, "I am home." 3 years passed. The seasons changed, the city grew familiar, and Emily, now 19, had learned to live without the weight of her old life pressing on her shoulders. She'd graduated high school with honors, gotten accepted into an art school downtown, and even had one of her paintings featured in a local gallery. It was called The Quiet Between Storms, a canvas filled with muted blues and broken white. the colors of forgiveness. Her art professor had asked her what inspired it. She smiled and said softly, "My life." Mark stood in the front row the day she gave her first public speech at the gallery. He wasn't the loud, cheering type. He just smiled, proud and quiet, the way only a father who's lost time could. When she stepped off the stage, he hugged her tightly. "You've done good, kiddo," he said. Emily smiled back. "We did good." And she meant it, because every brushstroke, every tear, every long night wondering who she was, it had all led here, to this moment. But closure has a way of waiting for the right time to show up. And for Emily, that time came one quiet afternoon in early spring. She got a letter in the mail. No return address, just her name in careful handwriting that she almost didn't recognize until she did. It was from Drake. Her stomach turned as she opened it. "Emily, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even expect a reply. I've done a lot of wrong in my life, and I've been paying for it in ways you'll never know. Your mother left me, and I've been alone ever since. I saw your name in the paper last month, the art show. You looked happy. Maybe that's enough. I'm sorry, Emily. I really am." She read the letter 3 times. Each time, the words hit differently. First, like anger, then confusion, and finally, relief. He hadn't changed who he was, but he'd admitted something he never had before. He'd seen her. That night she showed the letter to Mark. He read it quietly, then looked up at her. "You don't owe him anything." "I know," she said, "but I think I'm done hating him." Mark nodded slowly. "That's not for him. That's for you." She smiled faintly. "Yeah, it is." A month later, she went back home for the first time. The town looked smaller than she remembered, the streets quieter, the houses older. Her mom met her at the train station with tears in her eyes. Hannah was taller now, in college, and her brothers looked almost grown. It felt like stepping back into a photo that had finally faded into something peaceful. At dinner that night, her mom said, "He left town, you know. Drake, moved somewhere upstate." Emily nodded. "Good. He asked about you once. I didn't know what to say." "Tell him I'm okay," Emily said softly. "Tell him I forgive him." Her mom froze, then whispered, "Do you mean that?" "I do. Because if I don't forgive him, he still owns part of me." Her mom reached across the table and squeezed her hand. And for the first time in a long time, Emily felt the warmth of home. Not the house, but the people who had survived the storm with her. Later that night, she walked through her old neighborhood alone. The same streetlights, the same cracked sidewalks, the same swing in the park that creaked in the wind. She sat there for a while, closing her eyes, remembering the scared little girl who once dreamed of running away. Then she whispered into the night, "You made it." And for the first time, she truly believed it. 2 years later, her story came full circle. Her art, the story of her pain and healing, was featured in a national exhibit titled Resilience.
She stood beneath her favorite piece, a portrait of a young girl standing in a storm holding a flickering lantern. A small plaque beneath it read, "Artist, Emily Carter. Age, 21. Title, Am I the Asshole? Description, A self-portrait of survival. When the curator asked her about the meaning behind the title, she smiled. It's what I used to ask myself. Every time I tried to protect myself, I felt guilty. I thought I was the problem, but I wasn't. I was just trying to survive. As the night wound down, Mark joined her on the balcony overlooking the city lights. You ever think about what life would have been like if you'd stayed? He asked. Emily shook her head. No. Because then I wouldn't be me. He smiled. You know, I used to think I lost you, but really, I just had to wait for you to find yourself. She looked at him, at the father who showed up when it mattered most, and said softly, You did more than that. You gave me back my life. He chuckled. You gave it to yourself, kiddo. As the city hummed below, she leaned against the railing, breathing in the night air. For the first time, her heart felt steady. No more guilt, no more running. She had faced her past, embraced her truth, and built something beautiful out of the broken pieces. And somewhere deep inside, the little girl who once hid behind a locked door smiled too, because she was finally safe.